Men block elderly woman at ATM, but they messed with the wrong granny. We hear people about targeting the weak and the elderly in the news all the time. Sadly, some people have no moral compass, and Winifred Peel knew that all too well. She was just about ready to do her shopping when she noticed 3 men following her, but they had no idea that they had severely underestimated this granny. Peel is a British grandmother who looks like your typical 77-year-old. Her life in Liverpool was a peaceful one. She was retired and never had to rush for anything, which was the key to her happy life. She was active, but she had her limits thanks to her old age. But one day, these limits didn't stop her from doing what she had to do. Peel had grown up in this neighborhood, so she knew everything and everyone well. One day she left her house, but she had to bundle up for the typically cool English weather before heading out. On cold, rainy days like this one, she enjoyed walking to her favorite cafe and ordering a hot tea with something sweet. Then she walked through the local shops and kept to herself. But then, she noticed something. There were 3 men lurking in front of the local bank, and they were arguing. At first, she didn't pay much attention to them and went about her task. Peel was very active, and she was used to working with tools. In fact, she still lent her dad a hand whenever he needed to build or repair something. As she got older, she decided she liked being active. If the 3 men had known this about Peel, they wouldn't have done what they tried to do to her that day. During her stroll around town, she remembered that one of her friend's daughters was having a birthday soon. She thought of the girl as a daughter too. She had to buy her a gift, and it had to be special. She looked around and found a few items that would make a perfect gift for her. Then she went to the register so they could ring her up. But she gasped when they told her how much the total was. She simply didn't have that kind of money on her. So she rushed to the ATM, but she didn't realize that the 3 men had been waiting for her outside. The town was relatively small. It had a few banks, but it was still quite a walk to the nearest one. But she didn't mind because she simply loved being active. But as she kept on walking at a steady pace, she realized she was running out of breath. She decided to stop for a second in order to catch her breath. The minor setback was common at her age, but as far as Peel was concerned, this was irrelevant. As she approached the bank, she decided to reach into her handbag and grab her purse. By the time she got to the ATM, she needed another second to rest. Then she noticed a woman was standing behind her. "You go ahead, dear," Peel told her. "I'll be a minute." The woman thanked her and went in front of her. Meanwhile, Peel was shifting through her purse looking for her debit card when she heard hushed voices inching closer to her. The older you get, the more you learn about life. Peel lived by a simple motto: give kindness, receive kindness back. This was a lifelong philosophy which kept her smiling and filled her heart with nothing but love. She never judged a book by its cover, so the word mistrust wasn't in her vocabulary. But there she was in front of the ATM, and as she stuck her card in, she saw the reflection of a dark figure on the screen. But she wasn't startled. She simply typed in her PIN and hit continue. But suddenly her vision blurred, and she collapsed. It happened so fast. Someone had shoved her toward the ground, which left her very confused. Then she heard some shuffling, and that's when she got an adrenaline rush. "You're not taking my money, young man," she told him. She used her anger to muster up enough strength to stand, and once she did, the thieves were caught completely off guard. Peel wasn't going down without a fight. She glared at her attackers, and then she realized something. These were the men who were arguing with each other outside of the bank earlier. They were probably planning to rob her the entire time. What they didn't know was that Peel was no pushover. Peel grabbed the nearest thief's head and used all of her strength to bang him up against the wall. Naturally, the thieves were stunned by how this granny had used her full weight to take one of their own down. The woman's fighting spirit made them think twice about messing with her, so they tried to flee. Peel's veins were full of adrenaline, and she did what she had to in order to protect herself. But then she realized the danger she had been in. "It was only afterwards that I realized what I'd done and started shaking," she explained. "What if he'd had a knife? I might not be here today." She had to track these guys down. She couldn't let them hassle another elderly person. Fortunately, she got her chance. Everyone gathered around Peel to make sure she was all right. She certainly looked very troubled. And yet all she wanted to do now was catch the thieves who assaulted her. She asked everyone to stand aside and then went after them. One person stayed by Peel's side while 2 others went ahead to look for the guys responsible for the assault. Unfortunately, the attackers had vanished. The people who tried chasing after them had lost the trail. There was no sign of the bandits. But they didn't realize that the cops were on the thieves' trail. Meanwhile, Peel realized that her adrenaline rush had damaged the ATM's wall and floor. Obviously, she didn't know her own strength, but she had to admit she was quite impressed with herself. She lived to exercise. Peel enjoyed doing exercise since she was old enough to remember. When she got older, she joined the local gym and even worked out 4 times a week. But as she got older, her body wasn't as strong, so her workouts weren't quite as intense. And yet all those years of training had somehow kept her fit enough so that she could defend herself on that fateful day. But she still wanted to see these men behind bars. The cops eventually caught the thieves. One of them was sporting a serious head wound thanks to Peel, who fought back and forced his head against the ATM machine. The other 2 were loitering up the road when cops caught up to them. They were taken to the police station, and then justice was finally carried out. This elderly woman might have seemed frail, but she had plenty of strength left in her. Peel is still traumatized by the event. She fears that if she hadn't been this fit, things could have turned out a lot different. The men confessed to the assault as soon as they were taken into custody. Then they faced judgment in court. Each of them got a prison sentence. The judge felt that the men's actions were like casting a shadow over Peel's twilight years, but Peel was happy that they targeted her and not someone else who was not prepared to protect themselves like she was able to.